Assalamu alaikum. Dear friends, new educational policy 2020 has a clear target to change the standard of education qualitatively. It has proposed a new matrix of classes at different levels. It wants to bring a paradigm shift in the work culture of the teachers. It has identified various stakeholders of the education sector upon whom the responsibility as well as the accountability could be fixed. An important transformation has been proposed in the assignment and evaluation criteria. The school-based assessment has been made into the nucleus of the system, and it is being expected that this assessment will inject much needed blood to the otherwise bloodless veins of the system. Now, the NCERT at the center and the SERTs at the state levels have been planning orientations for the field teachers to equip them with the new concept of teaching. The SCERT Jammu and Kashmir has also been training thousands of school teachers these days to update them with the pedagogies deemed to be necessary for reaching the targets envisaged in the NEP 2020. The diets have been pressed to work. Diet Sopor in Baramulla district. In order to train the field teachers hired the services of nearly 15 resourceful persons. Fortunately, I was one among them. I was given two assignments. Number one, to teach the teachers the methods of preparing exemplars in the subject Urdu. And number second, to identify the techniques and tools of school-based assessment. I did deliver many lectures on both topics. Today, I felt the need of sharing these concepts with thousands of teachers online so that more and more teachers could prepare themselves for this new assignment. I hope, friends, you will find a fine thread to start with from this session. Stay connected till the end, please. So, our topic is tools and techniques of assessment. It is school-based assessment. So, I am your host Tariq Ahmad Malik, Master, HS Hardochanam, Rafiabad, Baramulla. My phone number is 7006121241. You can WhatsApp me on this number, or you can mail me on taraiq@gmail.com. So, school-based assessment. Let's first have a look on it. What is school-based assessment? Then, what are the tools and techniques of assessment? So, in the introduction, we will be saying like this. In this lecture, we will be dealing with the main techniques and tools of assessment. Next, we will turn to subsidiary assessment techniques. Finally, we will try to examine which tools are most relevant to the given techniques for achieving better results. So, we will be doing with techniques, then afterwards we will be dealing with tools of assessment. So, main techniques of assessment with us are, first is self-assessment. So, what is self-assessment? It is the assessment of the child by himself. We allow him to know his abilities, weaknesses, areas of interest, and levels of progress. The child provides the feedback to the teacher by himself. So, this is the assessment of a child by himself. Prior to National Policy of Education in 2020, there wasn't any scope for self-assessment. It would be totally based upon teacher assessment. The teacher would time and again ask questions to the students, and their response would make him think whether they are good at learning or they are weak at learning. Now the students are given the chance to record their responses, to show their responses about their abilities, about their weaknesses, about their areas of interest, and after that they would be providing feedback to the teacher. Is it so easy for students to report about their weaknesses and about their competencies or learning gaps? It will be seen when we will be looking forward in this lesson. Then next is with us peer assessment. So what is this type of assessment? In this assessment, two classmates are encouraged to discuss with each other about their strengths and weaknesses. Now same procedure is here. The teacher wants to know about the weaknesses and about the strengths of the students, but this time he resorts to what we call peer assessment. They provide feedback to each other. Now two students interacting with each other and then reporting to the teacher about each other. In the initial case of self-assessment, the student would assess his own abilities, capabilities, areas of interests, and he would then convey to the teacher, "Sir, I am having these problems." Then we are having third one, that is group assessment. What happens in this? The children are allowed to work on some project and share all their responsibilities as per their capacities. They then they learn from one another, guide one another, provide feedback to one another, and enhance their levels of learning this way. So what is happening in group assessment? The children are allowed to work on some project. The teacher assigns them some project in which they would share the responsibilities. They would have division of labor. Somebody would take one responsibility and another would take another responsibility as per their capacities and abilities. When they will be doing this, many things about the children will come out. They will in the meanwhile learn from one another. They may be guiding one another regarding certain things, and they may be providing feedback to each other regarding how to accomplish the task jointly. Thus, they could be enhancing their levels of learning. So with us, we are having now three assessments. First one is self-assessment, the assessment done by the child himself. Peer assessment, the assessment done by the classmate of the child. Then the group assessment, the assessment that comes to the fore when a group of students work together. तो पहला है सेल्फ असेसमेंट. बच्चा खुद अपनी कमज़ोरियों और अपनी उन चीज़ों का जिक्र करेगा जहां उसकी इंटरेस्ट ज़्यादा है. सेल्फ असेसमेंट अपने बारे में रिपोर्ट करेगा. पीर असेसमेंट में उसका दोस्त रिपोर्ट करेगा. ग्रुप असेसमेंट में एक ग्रुप मिलजुल कर काम करेगा और इसके ज़रिए से उस्ताद को पता चलेगा कि बच्चे किन किन खूबियों के मालिक है और उनमें कहाँ कहाँ कमज़ोरियाँ पाई जाती है. नाउ नेक्स्ट इज सब्सिडियरी असेसमेंट टेक्निक्स. दूसरे दर्जे की तकनीक्स कौन कौन सी है? In this comes class test and examination. First one is here, class test and examination. So let us see what are the benefits of it. What is the role of assessment in class test? Here we are having diagnostic assessment. What assessment it is? Before starting the new course, the teacher assesses the previous knowledge, learning capabilities, weaknesses, etc., and makes the diagnosis of the class and work out which method of teaching he should go with. So diagnostic assessment is done at the beginning of a course when a teacher goes to the new class after having passed the previous class. He first diagnoses the weaknesses, the capabilities, the learning gaps, each and everything, the level of learning of the students, and he makes a proper diagnosis just like a doctor does. And after that, he makes his mind that with which pedagogy he should go with. तशखीस करता है उस्ताद कि बच्चों की जो काबिलियत है, जहानत है, उनमें कितनी तालीम पहले से मौजूद है जब उन्होंने पिछले क्लास को पास किया है, अब नई क्लास में आए हैं. After that, we are going to the prognostic assessment. What is prognostic assessment? It is after knowing the learning levels and aptitudes of the children, the teacher formulates what pedagogy suits best for them in the future course of action. So this prognostic assessment, that's after knowing the learning levels. Now the teacher has learned the level of learning of his students and the aptitudes and what are they motivated for. The teacher formulates the pedagogies, means teaching strategy. Their teaching strategy which could bear best fruits for him in the future course of action, and he goes with them to listen the learning gaps and to make the students learn more and more. Now third assessment, which is possibly the core of this school-based assessment. It is formative assessment. Let us see what is it. The assessment made by the teacher during everyday teaching learning process in order to receive feedback and modify the teaching pedagogy accordingly. It is process oriented. It is simply assessment for learning. This is important assessment for school-based assessment. What is it? The assessment made by the teacher. It is facilitated by the teacher. During everyday teaching, then during his classroom, outside the classroom, in the morning assembly, in the play field, and during his teaching learning process. Why? In order to receive feedback. He wants to receive more and more feedback from his children and modify the teaching pedagogy accordingly, because he wants to see whether his pedagogy goes straight way in enhancing the learning capacity of his children. If he gets feedback that the pedagogy is not going right way, he may then change the pedagogy. It is process oriented. This formative assessment will go for the whole academic year. It is process oriented. It is focusing on the process of learning. It is simply assessment for learning, and it is assessment for learning, not assessment of learning. तो फॉर्मेटिव असेसमेंट हमें क्या देखते हैं, उस्ताद बार बार एग्ज़ाम करता है बच्चों का ताकि ये देखें कि जैसे वो पढ़ाता है क्या कारगर है वो तदाबीर जो वो अपनाता है. अगर उसे लगता है कि कारगर नहीं हो रही तो वो अपनी पढ़ाने की हिकमत अमली में तब्दीली लाता है, क्योंकि ये पढ़ाने के लिए सिखाने के लिए असेसमेंट है, ये पास या फेल करने के लिए नहीं. नेक्स्ट वी आर हैविंग समेटिव असेसमेंट. The assessment made by the teacher at the end of the course to judge the performance of the students. It passes value judgment and is expressed in grades and scores. The summative assessment is purely product oriented. Here we need to focus upon the two things, that is what was formative assessment for, and second, what is summative assessment for. This summative assessment is made at the end of the course. Now the whole syllabus has been completed. Now, it is time to judge the performance of students for the whole academic year. It passes value judgments. It passes judgment that Falani student is passing with distinction and another student is passing with this first division, another student is showing poor performance, another student is showing good performance. So it passes judgment and it expressed in grades. For example, grade A plus, grade A, grade B, grade C, etc. Or it may be giving scores. For example, student is getting 400 out of 500. This is summative. This summative assessment is simply assessment of learning, while as the formative assessment was assessment for learning. There, the assessment would provide for bettering the efforts of teacher in order to get maximum, in order to get good results. But this is simply summative assessment. This is assessment of learning. It is product oriented. It simply says that whether the student gets passed or he gets failed. There is no way back to this. This assessment has been in place for centuries together, and it is this assessment which made the thinkers think that it needs to be changed. ये जो assessment है, summative assessment, यही यहाँ prevail था पूरी दुनिया में. अब कहा जाता है कि इसी ने तमाम तकलीफ़ें बढ़ा दी है. इसी वजह से बच्चे अच्छी तरह पढ़ नहीं पाते. बच्चे सिर्फ रॉट मेमोरी पर फोकस करते हैं, एग्ज़ाम पास करते हैं. नाउ सेकंड subsidiary assessment is our observation. So what is observation? The teacher observes the students throughout the school. Throughout the school hours, he observes their activities in the classroom as well as outside the classroom, in the play field, etc. Yes, in the play field, in the morning assembly, etc., he observes their these attitudes, aptitudes, behaviors, etc. Observation could be planned, structured, participant in nature, or it can be unplanned, artificial, and non-participant in nature. So, let us see once again. The teacher observes the students throughout the school hour. When student enters the school, the teacher keeps him observing. He observes their activities. Their activities are being observed by the teacher in the classroom as well as outside the classroom. For example, in the play field, when the students are playing, in the morning assemblies, when they are doing different activities, he observes their attitudes, how they behave, how they show their personal traits, their aptitudes, what are they, what tendencies they have, their behavior patterns, etc. Observation could be planned. That teacher may sometimes plan that I will observe my students today. It could be structured, again planned, or it could be participant in nature. Sometimes he would be playing with them as a participant in some game, and he would be observing their behavior pattern, capacities and capabilities. Or it can be unplanned. All of a sudden he would be thinking that let me observe them. All of a sudden he notices different behavioral patterns of the students. It could be artificial. Sometimes the teacher would be asking them some work, while they will get this alert that teacher is observing, yes, then they will be showing artificial behavior. And sometimes it could be non-participant in nature. Teacher would not be participating in certain activity, but he would be simply watching them doing different work. तो ऑब्जर्वेशन मुशाहिदा कैसे होगा? क्लास में भी टीचर देखेगा, क्लास से बाहर भी वो देखेगा, जैसे फील्ड में देखिएगा. यानी जब बच्चे खेलते होते हैं, मॉर्निंग असेंबली में जब डिबेट करते होते हैं, जब वो नगमे गाते होते हैं, स्पीच करते होते हैं, क्विज करते होते हैं, और वो देखता रहेगा बच्चों के बर्ताव कैसे हैं, उनके जो वो किन चीज़ों की तरफ रागिब होते हैं, उनकी जो उनका तरीका कैसा है एक दूसरे के साथ बात करने का, तो वो कभी प्लान करेगा, कभी अनप्लानड ही, कभी वो सोच कर रहेगा कि मैं आज बच्चों को ऑब्ज़र्व करूँगा, तो कभी वो बच्चे को एहसास देगा कि मैं आपको ऑब्ज़र्व करने वाला हूँ, तो बच्चा उस वक्त आर्टिफिशियल बिहेवियर दिखाएगा, तो कभी वो अलग तरीके से यानी चुपचाप तरीके से उन्हें ऑब्ज़र्व करता रहेगा। नेक्स्ट टेक्निक इज सेल्फ रिपोर्टिंग। What is self-reporting? We provide the students opportunities to express their feelings with regards to various issues related to them. The children do easily express their feelings regarding their interests, learning levels, weaknesses, etc. For this item, the teacher either comes with surveys or frames questionnaires or organize interviews. So this is interesting. Assessment. The child should be self-reporting. She should be telling about his weaknesses and his strong points, for which the teacher facilitates certain tools so that the student could report by himself about his weaknesses, about his areas of interest, about his strong areas. And here are some way out how could he make survey. The teacher frames many questions about the issues related to the students and seeks on-spot response from them. It is on-spot response, means it is oral response. Then we are having another questionnaire. The teacher frames questions and seeks written responses from the students. So, in order to make students respond, the teacher can either have a survey wherein oral responses are sought from the students, or he will frame a question paper or questionnaire wherein written responses are collected from the students. The teacher can opt for the third option, that is interviews. The teacher does also plan interviews to know the learning levels of the students. He may have structured interview wherein questions are already framed, or he may ask questions out of his own choice. So this is another way to seek responses from the students, wherein the teacher will involve them in some interview and students will report themselves. Next technique with us is anecdotal records. This is to see the individual weaknesses, individual shortcomings, individual these strong points of the students. But this is necessarily an assessment. In this anecdotal record, what we do, short account of some episode in which a child showed some particular behavior. For example, he showed courage, he showed fear, he showed wit and wisdom, etc., shall find a special place in the findings of a teacher. The child must be encouraged for positive traits and provided feedback how to overcome the negative traits. Many times, some episodes occur in the school premises or in the way when students come to school. For example, a road accident. For example, a fire occurs somewhere. For example, there is some wild animal enters the school premises, and by that time the teacher can record the unique behavior patterns of the students. For example, somebody could display courage, somebody could be fear stricken, somebody could come with wit and wisdom. These must have a special record in the book of teacher. So next, coming to the next point, there are debates and presentations. Teacher can assess the students when they are engaged in debates and oral presentations. These debates and oral presentations help us to know about the communication skills. So communication skill is a necessary skill to be developed in the students and performing art expertise of the children. So these two positive things can come out when we will be engaging students in debates or in oral presentations. These things give us insight of their expertise at arranging, analyzing, and synthesizing the ideas regarding an event. See, when we allow a student to enter into a debate or to have an oral presentation, he comes with a topic, wherein he arranges the ideas, he analyzes the ideas, and he synthesizes the ideas. So he uses what we say higher order thinking, which we have read in the Bloom's taxonomy. So another assessment technique with is project or group work. So what do we find in project and group work? Sometimes we frame groups out of the children and assign them some group activity. So there are so many group activities in the school. The teacher can observe the children displaying many positive attributes. So when we'll be engaging them in a group activity, teacher can closely monitor that they are showing special traits. For example, somebody comes with leadership qualities, somebody comes with a special skill, and somebody comes with acquiring of that very skill from others, and they all work as a team. So this way, and they come with solving problem attitudes. This way, teacher can develop different traits in the students while engaging them in a group work. So this group work and project has many benefits to confer upon the students. So this is a very good assessment for a teacher. Another is assignment and homework. So when teacher gives assignments and homework, it helps it helps the students work out different aspects of their learning. For example, they develop traits like remembering, like comprehension, like applicability, like analysis, like evaluation, like creation. These things step by step get developed in the children. Remembering, then comprehending. When we acquire knowledge, we pass through these steps. First is remembering the concept, comprehending the concept, applying the concept in some different event, analyzing the ideas already learned, evaluating their validity, and creating something special. When a student undergoes these six different levels, he gets into higher order thinking. Bloom's taxonomy is involved here. His cognitive domain gets into equilibrium. The teacher can get to know the learning capacities of his children quite easily after using this valuable technique. Which technique? Homework and assignment. And it makes his this writing skill very strong. Now coming to assessment tools. These were techniques we have discussed so far. Now talking of assessment tools. Tools are actually instruments and techniques are processes. In order to know whether or not the students are showing progress in their learning of various competencies, the teacher may use some handy tools which will give him an instant overview of his student's capabilities. Some of the tools are, as I told you earlier, that teacher has some techniques beforehand, which we discussed over here, like those of which techniques we discussed: self-assessment, group assessment, then peer assessment, then observation, this assignment, homework, tests. Those were the techniques of assessment. Now every technique needs some this tool to identify the positives and negatives of the student. So our first tool is checklist. So it is an easy tool. A checklist is a very simple tool with the teacher to assess the progress of his students. The teacher frames some questions about the desired competencies and asks the student to fill the checklist on the spot. So first tool is checklist, that the teacher distributes among the students and asks them to fill the checklist on the spot, so that the teacher could get the level of the student's learning on spot. So here is the specimen checklist. How does a checklist look like? This easy way. This is checklist exemplar design, in which we have serial number, we are having item, and we have response. Very easy to be filled by the students. For example, if we are teaching them a content from English, we can pose questions like this: can you read the text easily? The student can either give response in yes or in no. Second thing, have you understood the content? He can give response yes, or he can give response no. Can you write answers to all the questions? This is writing answers would be your application part. Application, we are checking his application. He can either say yes or he can no. This was comprehension. We are checking his comprehension, and here we were checking his retention in reading. Then, for example, can you write the summary of the lesson? This can be analysis. He can be giving response in yes or no. Can you discuss the lesson before the class? Higher order thinking, again analysis he will be doing. So we will be checking the responses from the students. How should the teacher act in the class? Whether he should be strict, whether he should be friendly. This way we can give a checklist exemplar for a teacher, which he can fill by himself. By in these items sections, he can pose different questions and will seek answers in one word just by ticking the correct response. Second assessment tool with us is rating scale, an easy assessment tool. We sometimes use 5-point rating scale to assess the progress of our students. In this tool, we assign every competency a specific value and express the student's progress accordingly. For example, 1 equal to poor, 2 has rating of weak, 3 good, 4 very good, 5 excellent. You can give similar numbers. Here is a rating scale exemplar, just a specimen. We can write here rating scale exemplar. Then we can pose this: rate your competencies as per the rating scale. This would be specially used in the self-assessment technique. Self-assessment technique, and tool would be rating scale. Here we will be having items like this: serial number, then item, then rating. For example, the first item is, what do you think about your reading? Are you satisfied with your reading? Are you capable of reading the content easily? If the child gives it rating 5, that means he is accepting that he is excellent at this reading. So coming to the next point in the rating scale, second question could be like this: how do you rate your comprehension? Means how good you are at comprehending the things, understanding the things. If child writes 4, that means he is explaining that I am good at comprehending things. How are you at applying your knowledge? When the child is asked about the application part of his knowledge, he responds with 2, means he is weak at applying his knowledge. It is his rating. It is given by the child is self-reporting. He rates his capabilities by himself. We are asking him question, how good you are at in the games. How good you are in the games. For example, 4 was very good in above list, 2 was weak, and if the child writes 3, possibly we can get from the rating scale that 3 stands for good. How are you at helping the needy? If child responds 3, that means he is saying about himself that he is good at helping, because we have, for example, given the rating 1 is poor, ratings in the rating scale, 2 is weak, 3 is good, 4 is very good, and 5 is excellent. Now the child rates his activities by his own having self-assessment, but it is the teacher who facilitates the rating tool. Now third one is rubrics. What is rubrics? We use rubric to indicate with clarity that the achievement criteria across all the components of the student's learning pursuits. So there are different columns and rows in a rubric exemplar. We are having item, we are having this rating. We rate somebody as average, somebody as good, somebody as very good. We can add here a column excellent as well. For example, if the content is our first item, we will be having 3 types of rating. The child could write, I am very slow at reading the content. Or he may report, I managed to read all the content with my efforts. Or he may report, I do read all the content without much effort. Assuming that the child is here, that means he is average. We have to make him good, then very good. If the child is here, that means he is good. We have to devise our strategies so that he could be brought in this layer where he is very good. So far as comprehension is concerned, second item of ours is, the child could respond like this: I understand very little of the content. Or he could respond like this: I understand the concepts after reading many times. Or he could respond, I do easily understand and analyze every concept. Again, if he falls in this category, we have to use our efforts, we have to change our pedagogy to make him come in the very good category. Same is the case with grammar. He can respond, the child can respond, I am very confused about grammar. Or he may respond, I don't have too much problem with grammar. Or he may respond, I am well versed with grammar. Again, we will be thinking that if he is here, we have to bring him in the level 3rd. If he is in the good category, we have to make sure that he will be brought into very good category. So, friends, after having learned school-based assessment minutely, we now have the time to implement these concepts at our school level. We hope it will usher a new dawn in our teaching learning process. Friends, I hope many of our apprehensions and many of our confusions have been solved in this lesson, in this brief session. I am looking forward to see more sessions like that of this coming in our way. So stay connected, keep watching my videos, keep sharing, keep commenting, and keep liking all of my videos. Do subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed to it till now. Stay blessed. Khuda Hafiz.